As the Empress, I wasted my entire heart competing for favor with the concubines. The Emperor always favored those young, fresh faces. I even lowered my status, secretly learning the seductive ways of courtesans to please him, just hoping he would look at me properly once. But at the birthday banquet, he walked past me holding a newly arrived beauty, not even sparing me a glance. That night I knelt on the floor and burned all the poems I had written for him over the years. My trusted maid was terrified, asking if I was heartbroken. No, I said, I had simply woken up. I suddenly realized something. The man I loved for 6 years is controlled by the Empress Dowager, a puppet who can't even sit firmly on his own throne. He can only drown himself in beauty every day to numb himself. But I am different. My father holds half the military power in the world. For years I was trapped in the inner palace, thinking I was the most pathetic woman in this square world. Now I finally understand. As long as I am willing, whoever becomes the emperor is up to me. In the Great Hall, His Majesty Zhao Yuan Xi took that piece of flowing cloud brocade from the western region and bestowed it upon Beauty Wei. The fabric was woven with gold thread, the only one of its kind in the entire palace. He handed it to her himself without even glancing in my direction. The concubines below exchanged looks. I knew what they were thinking. When we go back tonight, Beauty Wei will likely be punished by me to kneel all night. I smiled and picked up my teacup. This fabric suits Sister Wei's temperament. It will surely look beautiful made into a dress. In the past, this would have been said out of jealousy, but saying it now, it is the truth. My father is a veteran of 3 reigns, who followed the late emperor into battle in his youth. The gold and jewels brought back from enemy treasuries could fill 3 storehouses. What kind of treasures have I not seen? A piece of brocade is not worth worrying about. However, in a few days we are to enter the Imperial mausoleum to pay respects to our ancestors, and I am busy calculating the seating for the concubines and the carriage arrangements. I have no time to think about these things. But Beauty Wei suddenly spoke up. Your Majesty the Empress, I heard a few days ago that in your palace, there were sounds of crying and laughing in the middle of the night. It was quite frightening. I fear your palace may have attracted something unclean, or perhaps your health is not quite right. If we go to pay respects to the ancestors this time, and you accidentally offend them, what would we do then? He paused, looking at me tentatively. Perhaps we should ask the noble consort to take your place? I glanced at him. Since when is it your turn to make arrangements for me? Zhao Yuan Xi frowned. Beauty Wei is only acting out of kindness. Why must the Empress be so sharp? I ignored him. Beauty Wei's eyes immediately turned red. Her voice filled with tears. I was only worried about you, your Majesty. If I said something wrong, please punish me. Seeing her like this, Zhao Yuanxi's expression darkened further. He turned to me and said, she is concerned about you, yet you respond with such thorns. I sneered inwardly and stood up. Fine, then I won't go. Zhao Yuanxi was stunned. As for the ancestral rites, please have the noble consort handle them. My tone was calm. I am happy to be free of the trouble. Beauty Wei was still wiping away tears, saying, Your Majesty, please don't be angry. It is all my fault. Zhao Yuanxi immediately went to comfort her, not forgetting to scold me as well. This palace is no place for you to act out. You are the Empress, yet you act so petulant and difficult. Look at how you frightened her. I only found it amusing. In the past, when I fought for his attention, he called me jealous. Now that I don't fight anymore, he thinks I'm just sulking. Think what you will, Your Majesty. I shall take my leave. I bowed, and without waiting for a response, I turned and left. The business of the ancestral rites, I have no intention of getting involved in anymore. But with so many people coming and going in the palace, the Empress Dowager must be informed. After all, she is the one pulling the strings behind Zhao Yuanxi. For years we have been wary of each other, but we have maintained a facade of civility. When I went to the Yongshou Palace, the Empress Dowager was playing with her cat. I explained the situation in a few words. She didn't say anything after listening, just nodded. I assumed she understood. To my surprise, the next morning, the Empress Dowager's decree arrived. She publicly rebuked the emperor for favoring a concubine over his wife and disregarding protocol. Beauty Wei was ordered to kneel for 3 days and copy the palace rules 10 times. When I heard the news, I was doing my makeup. My face reflected in the bronze mirror, and for a moment I didn't know what expression to make. My visit to the Empress Dowager was just a formality. How did it turn into me complaining? Zhao Yuanxi probably thought the same. That very night, he summoned 3 beauties to his bedchamber. The sound of music played all night long. The next day, word spread that he intended to select more women from official families to fill the inner palace, caused quite a stir. Gossip in the palace began to spread. As I walked through the corridor, a few concubines were whispering behind a pillar. Their voices were just loud enough to reach my ears. The Empress has really offended the Emperor this time. He didn't give her any face at all. Who told her to go complain to the Empress Dowager? She deserves it. I didn't stop, nor did I look back. A few years ago, I chased after Zhao Yuanxi so desperately that I lost all my dignity. Now throughout the palace, few people take me, the Empress, seriously. The Empress Dowager seemed to feel she owed me something. insisting on organizing a spring viewing, arranging for me to tour the Imperial garden with the Emperor. I hadn't figured out what she was planning. When the Emperor stood before the flower beds, in front of all the eunuchs and maids, and pointed at my nose to scold me, "Shen Qing Lan, do you still want any dignity? You are old and faded, unable to keep my heart, so you go crying to the Empress Dowager? Are you tired of annoying me?" Her voice was loud, and a nearby maid cleaning the floor shook with fear. I stood there watching his flushed face, suddenly feeling that the beauty of the spring garden was a waste. He thought I went to complain to the Empress Dowager, thought I was sulking with him, thought I still cared who he summoned to sleep with at night. I opened my mouth, then closed it. What was there to say? That his Empress Dowager mother, who holds power over the court, doesn't need anyone to complain to her? The entire palace is her eyes and ears. That my visit to the Yongshou Palace was just a formality, and I didn't mention a word against him. Forget it, for a man who can't even make decisions for himself. Telling him these things, he might not understand. I had intended to go to the Empress Dowager to clarify things and tell her not to stir up this muddy water anymore. Before I could even leave the palace gate, Beauty Wei arrived first. She brought 3 or 4 of her trusted maids, and walked in swaggering. Without even performing a proper greeting, she entered the palace late, brought back by Zhao Yuan Xi from Jiangnan last year, a commoner girl. She probably never heard who my father was, nor did she know what the name Shun meant in the imperial court. In her eyes, I was just an unloved empress, with only a title, whom anyone could step on. "Your Majesty the Empress, have you been well these past few days?" she said with a smile. "I heard you were in low spirits, so I came to see you." I closed the ledger, and didn't respond. Her voice was loud. I knew a nanny back in Jiangnan, who later worked as a servant for a wealthy family. She had very clever ways. "Your Majesty the Empress, if you want to learn how to keep a man's heart, I can have her come and teach you." The maids behind her covered their mouths and giggled. Speaking of which, she looked me up and down. "I have always had a question. You are already in your 20s, and the fine lines on your face can't be hidden anymore. Why are you still competing for favor like a young girl? The Emperor doesn't like you. You should just accept your fate. Pestering him all these years. Aren't you ashamed?" This was becoming increasingly outrageous. I only had 2 personal maids with me, Lanji and Shenxiang, who stepped in front and said, "Beauty Wei, watch your tongue." They were pushed aside by the other party. Shenxiang stumbled and hit the corner of the table, letting out a muffled groan. A figure flashed outside the hall. Zhao Yuanxi had arrived, I don't know when, standing outside the threshold with his hands behind his back, watching the chaos inside with a blank expression. He had no intention of stopping it. Lady Wei glanced back at him. She grew even bolder. She turned around and smiled at me. "I am only telling the truth, Your Majesty. Everyone in the palace knows that the Emperor is annoyed just by looking at the Empress. If I were you, I would have found a Buddhist temple to hide in long ago to avoid being an eyesore." I stood up. He froze for a moment. He took half a step back. I walked toward him. The maid behind him tried to stop me. I swept a sharp glance over them. They shrunk back, not daring to move. I asked him, "What did you just say?" He swallowed hard. Stubbornly, he said, "I was only being kind." I didn't wait for him to finish. I grabbed him by the throat. The hall fell silent for a moment. His eyes widened. His hands clawed wildly. His nails scratched the back of my hand. I didn't let go. I dragged him toward the exit. Outside the threshold, Zhao Yuanxi's brow furrowed. He opened his mouth to say something. I had already flung my hand out. Lady Wei was sent flying. His back slammed into the old tree in the courtyard. There was a dull thud. He slid down the trunk. He clutched his mouth and coughed. Red seeped through his fingers. The courtyard was deathly silent. Lanji and Chunxiang knelt on the ground. Their faces were pale. Zhao Yuanxi's expression shifted several times. Finally, he flicked his sleeves. He coldly ordered the guards behind him. "The Empress has lost her mind, hurting someone right in front of me. What are you all standing there for? Take her back to her chambers and lock her up. Without my decree, no one is allowed in or out." The guards looked at each other. They hesitated before taking a step forward. The Empress Dowager arrived, supported by attendants. She stood at the courtyard gate. She glanced at Lady Wei, who was coughing blood by the tree. Then she looked at me. Her brow was tightly knit. "Qing Lan, you've gone too far this time." Her tone wasn't heavy, but every word carried weight. "No matter what, you are the Empress, resorting to violence. What will people say if word gets out?" I stood at the hall entrance, not backing down. Zhao Yuanxi acted as if he'd been given a divine mandate. He straightened his back a bit. "Mother is right. The Empress's actions today have utterly disgraced the royal family. I see she doesn't just have a bad temper. She's lost her wits as well. Guards, why haven't you moved yet?" The guards took 2 more steps forward. I looked at him. Suddenly, I let out a laugh. "The Emperor wants to lock me up?" Zhao Yuanxi was stunned. He probably didn't expect me to be able to laugh. He looked at me with a frown. His eyes were full of impatience. "What else do you have to say?" "Nothing much to say." I spoke slowly. "I just want to ask one thing. Who exactly is in charge of this inner palace? Zhao Yuan Xi gave a cold snort. After making such a scene, you have the nerve to ask that? I ignored him. I turned around. I looked at the guards who had reached the steps. You want to seize me? The lead guard bowed his head, not daring to look at me. Forgive us, Your Majesty. We are following the Emperor's decree. My father, Shen Qing Lan, led the army for 30 years. He has 300,000 soldiers. The generals in court were all promoted by him. I looked at the top of the guard's head. My voice wasn't loud, but everyone in the courtyard heard me clearly. He is currently at the border guarding the Zhao family's realm. Have you asked him before seizing his daughter? The guard bowed even lower. His feet were frozen in place. If I don't give the order and my father doesn't give the order, I withdrew my gaze from them. I glanced indifferently at Zhao Yuanxi's livid face. Inside or outside this palace, who dares touch a single hair on my head? The courtyard was so quiet only the wind could be heard. Zhao Yuanxi opened his mouth. His expression turned from anger to embarrassment. Then from embarrassment to bewilderment. It was likely the first time he realized that his words as emperor to these people weren't as effective as a single word from me. The Empress Dowager stood to the side. Her face turned slightly pale. In the end, she didn't say a word. I turned and went back into the hall, leaving a courtyard full of people standing there. No one dared to move. The Empress Dowager came to my palace in person that night. 2 maids followed her. They carried tonics and silks. She sat across from me. Her tone softened. Everything she said was framed as being for my sake. She said Lady Wei indeed lacked manners, and that he deserved a lesson. It's just that you were a bit too heavy-handed. It doesn't sound good if it spreads. She said the emperor was young and impulsive, and that he acted without thinking. She told me not to take it to heart. I poured her a cup of tea but didn't respond. She took a sip of tea. She said a few more comforting words. Her meaning was clear. She wanted me to give him a way out so she could persuade the emperor to apologize, and then the matter would be settled. I remained non-committal. The next day Zhao Yuanxi came. He stood at the hall entrance. When he stepped over the threshold, his pace was very slow, as if he were waiting for someone to kneel and welcome. Lanji and Chunxiang paid their respects. He didn't even give them a glance. He walked straight to the main seat and sat down. Only then did he glance at me. I've come to see you. His tone sounded like he was giving charity. I sat nearby. I poured him a cup of tea without speaking. He picked up the cup, took a sip and set it down. His gaze lingered on my face. He was likely waiting for my eyes to redden as before, waiting for me to thank him humbly. In the past, if he so much as looked at me, I would be happy for days. Let alone him visiting of his own accord. Regarding yesterday's matter, I will not hold it against you. He leaned back against the chair. His chin was slightly raised. You were just acting on impulse. I understand. Stay in your palace properly from now on. Don't make any more trouble. When he said this, his eyes held a hint of condescending tolerance, as if being able to forgive me was a great favor he was granting me. He waited for a moment, seeing no reaction from me. His brow furrowed slightly. He probably thought I should be moved to tears. That I should kneel and thank him for not punishing me. That I should look at him longingly as I used to, waiting for him to offer a few more tender words. I did nothing. I just sat there quietly. When the tea grew cold, I refilled it. His expression gradually became awkward. His fingers tapped twice on the edge of the table. His lips moved, as if he wanted to say something harsh. Then he remembered the guards bowing their heads yesterday. He swallowed his words. His expression gradually became awkward. His fingers tapped twice on the edge of the table. His lips moved, as if he wanted to say something harsh. Then he remembered the guards bowing their heads yesterday. He swallowed his words. In a few days, I'll have someone send you some new tribute fabrics, he added dryly. You should have some new clothes made. I gave a brief acknowledgement. I said, fine. He finally couldn't sit still anymore. He stood up and paced the hall. He glanced back at me. A young eunuch peeked in at the door, saying there were matters at court. Zhao Yuanxi acted as if he'd found a savior. He straightened his collar. He turned to leave. He stopped at the threshold. He looked back and dropped one last line. I will come to see you another day. I stood up and gave a formal bow. I said, farewell, Your Majesty. His back stiffened for a moment. Perhaps he was waiting for me to say something else. I said nothing. Once he was far away, Lanji finally dared to ask in a low voice, Your Majesty, did the emperor come to apologize? Not to apologize. I poured the cold tea into a flower pot. He came to test if I still care. And you? I don't care anymore. Lanji was stunned. She didn't dare ask more. Zhao Yuanxi was truly scared this time. I heard from Lanji that he hadn't summoned anyone for days. He didn't even visit Lady Wei. News spread from the court that the emperor was in low spirits. He hadn't attended the morning court for several days. A few days later, he came to Cunning Palace. This time, the Empress Dowager didn't follow. There were no eunuchs to lead the way. He came alone. When he stood at the palace gate, he was holding a scroll in his hand. His complexion was poor, with dark circles under his eyes, as if he hadn't slept soundly in days. When Lanji announced him, I was sitting by the window embroidering a handkerchief, hearing the words, "The Emperor has arrived." My needle paused for a moment. Before I continued stitching, "Qing Lan," he began, his voice much softer than usual. I stood up and gave a casual bow, then sat back down. He sat down opposite me, and after a long silence, he pushed the scroll toward me. "I had this painted for you. Take a look." I unrolled it and took a look. It was a landscape painting. The brushwork was mediocre, nothing particularly impressive. "I've been thinking a lot these past few days," he said, head bowed, his fingers tracing the edge of the table. "I was wrong before, neglecting you and letting you suffer." I didn't respond. He took a deep breath and said something that surprised me. "I have already issued an imperial decree dismissing everyone in the palace below the rank of consort." Lanji's hand, pouring tea nearby, trembled slightly. I was also a bit surprised and looked up at him. "Beauty Wei and the others of lower rank have all been sent away." His voice grew quieter as he spoke. "The inner palace will be quieter now. Please don't be angry with me anymore." I rolled up the scroll, placed it on the corner of the table, and said nothing. He waited for a while, and seeing no reaction from me, his face began to turn pale. "Qing Lan, I know I was wrong. Give me a chance. From now on, I will only treat you well. Please don't ignore me." Looking at him like this, I suddenly remembered the past, back when I knelt at his palace gate begging to see him, when I stood under the long corridor waiting for him to finish court until my legs went numb, when I danced at his birthday banquet until my toes were bruised. Was he looking at me like this back then? No, he wouldn't even glance at me. "Qing Lan." He reached out to touch my hand, but I pulled back. His hand hung in midair, stiffened and then retracted. "I can't live without you. These days I can't sleep, can't eat, and my mind is full of you. I was blind before and didn't realize how wonderful you are. Will you forgive me this once?" His eyes were red, and his voice was hoarse. I looked at him, feeling very calm. No hartache. No being moved. Not even a sense of satisfaction. It was like watching a stranger act in front of me. He was acting well, but it had nothing to do with me. "Your Majesty, there's no need for this." I picked up my teacup and took a sip. "Do as you please regarding the inner palace." His face turned pale instantly, his lips trembling, wanting to say something but unable to speak. I truly know I was wrong. His voice began to shake. "I'll do whatever you want. You can scold me or hit me. Just don't talk to me like that. I can't stand it." I set down the teacup and looked at him, saying, "Your Majesty is overthinking it. Your decision to dismiss the inner palace is your own. I will not stop you. If you wish to visit me, I will not turn you away. It's just that." I paused, looking into his eyes. "You don't need to do these things to win me back." 3 days after the decree to dismiss the inner palace was issued, Beauty Wei had not left. He had smashed everything in his palace, disheveled his hair, and beaten away the eunuchs sent to escort him out. The servants didn't dare to force him, so they ran to report to Zhao Yuan Xi. Zhao Yuan Xi was already at his wit's end due to my cold and indifferent attitude, and had no heart to deal with him. He just left a message saying to let him throw his tantrum and he'd leave eventually. He stopped paying attention to him, but Beauty Wei blamed everything on me. That evening, Lanji had gone to the Imperial kitchen for dinner and hadn't returned. Chen Xiang was in the courtyard collecting the bedding. I was sitting by the window alone, flipping through some scrolls. After reading a few lines, I felt bored and wanted to go for a walk. Just as I stood up, the palace door was kicked open. Beauty Wei stood at the door, hair disheveled, most of his hair ornaments gone. His clothes were covered in dust, as if he had fallen somewhere. His eyes were terrifyingly red, staring straight at me, clutching a dagger in his hand, the blade glinting coldly in the twilight. "Shen Qing Lan." His voice was sharp and hoarse. "This is all your fault." He rushed forward 2 steps, the tip of the knife pointing at me, his hand shaking, his whole body shaking. "His Majesty doesn't want me anymore and is kicking me out of the palace. I have nothing left. It's all because of you. Why didn't you die sooner? If you had died, the Emperor wouldn't treat me like this." Chen Xiang heard the commotion, rushed in from the courtyard, and blocked me, her voice trembling. Beauty Wei put down the knife. "Let's talk this through." "Get lost." Beauty Wei shoved her aside. Chen Xiang hit the door frame, her forehead bleeding. He lunged at me with the knife. I dodged to the side and grabbed the teapot from the table, smashing it against his wrist. He cried out in pain, and the dagger slipped from his hand, falling to the floor with a sharp clatter. He froze for a second, looking down at it. I stepped on the blade first and kicked it into the corner. He looked up, the expression on his face shifting from madness to despair, and then to an even deeper hatred. He lunged to choke me, his nails digging into my skin, screaming, "I'll kill you." I grabbed his wrist and twisted it outward. He screamed in pain and fell to his knees. Chen Xiang crawled out to call for help. Footsteps and shouting mixed together. The palace in total chaos. I looked down at the trembling Beauty Wei on the floor. Her fingers were bent out of shape by me, sweating from the pain, muttering something incoherent and unclear. The guards arrived quickly and dragged him away. By the time Zhao Yuan Xi arrived, everything was over. He rushed in through the palace gate, looking me up and down, reaching out to support me, saying, "Are you all right? Are you hurt?" I took a step back. His hand hung in midair, the concern on his face slowly turning into embarrassment. He probably wanted to say something tender, but I blocked it with one sentence. "Your Majesty, please keep your people in check in the future." The Empress Dowager sent someone to ask about it, and knowing I wasn't hurt, she didn't say anything more. The next day, I heard Beauty Wei had been sent out of the palace to a manor outside the city, never to return. Shen Xiang's forehead injury was bandaged, and Lanji had stayed up all night, not daring to close her eyes. I sat by the window watching the moon in the sky, recalling the look in Beauty Wei's eyes when he lunged at me. To hate someone that much, in the end, was just blaming a man's actions on me. Beauty Wei's knife didn't hurt me, but it did shatter the last bit of Zhao Yuanxi's dignity. It spread throughout the palace and beyond, that the Empress was almost stabbed, and the Emperor couldn't even control his own people. The old officials at court who were already dissatisfied with him used this incident to submit several more memorials, all implying that the Emperor was being absurd. The Empress Dowager smashed 3 tea sets in the Yongshou Palace, cursing him for being useless, and after she finished, she sent gifts to the Kunming Palace, fearing I would hold a grudge. I didn't actually hold a grudge. I just didn't want to endure it anymore. All these years in the palace, I endured him favoring this one and that one, endured him giving rewards to others right in front of me, endured him pointing fingers behind my back. I thought as long as I was good enough, patient enough, and sensible enough, one day he would see me. Now I understand. He isn't worth my endurance, and this inner palace isn't worth me throwing away my whole life. But I am the Empress, and I am destined to never escape these 4 walls. Since I can't get out, I might as well make myself comfortable. The day I went to see the Empress Dowager, she is copying scriptures in the Buddhist hall. Seeing me arrive, she puts down her brush and dismisses the palace attendants. He is a clever man. So clever that for years we have been wary of each other, yet managed to coexist in peace. Does the Empress Dowager want to see a change in who rules this land? I get straight to the point. He glances at me, but says nothing. You have been ruling from behind the curtain for years, and he has become more outrageous by the day. His selection of concubines is absurd, and he favors corrupt officials. Isn't every one of these acts a slap in your face? Now he can't even manage the inner palace. As for the affairs of the court, can you still count on him? The Empress Dowager lifts her teacup, takes a sip, and replies calmly, "Are you venting your own frustrations, or are you plotting a future for your Shen family?" Neither, I say. I am planning for the sake of this empire, an emperor who cannot even control those closest to him. What is the point of keeping him? He remains silent for a long time, the tea growing cold without him taking a second sip. Finally, he sets down his cup and asks, "How certain are you?" My father holds 300,000 troops in his hands, and half the military officials in court are his men. Empress Dowager, you have controlled the court for years, and the civil officials follow your lead as well. If we join forces, he won't be able to turn the tide. The Empress Dowager nods, saying nothing more. Things go more smoothly than I expected. The Empress Dowager's methods are more ruthless than mine. She utilized every connection she had built over the years, from memorials to imperial edicts, from the court to the inner palace. Layer by layer, she completely hollowed out Zhao Yuanxi's power. First, he didn't notice, only feeling that fewer memorials were being sent for him to review, and he saw fewer officials. By the time he realized what was happening, everyone around him had been replaced. The eunuchs were new. The guards were new. Even the meals he ate every day were arranged by the imperial kitchen according to the Empress Dowager's wishes. He came to the Kunming Palace to find me, his face as white as paper. "Qing Lan, what have you done?" He stood at the palace entrance, his voice trembling. I sat by the window drinking tea, not even looking up. "Your Majesty, you jest. What could I possibly have done? The people around me no longer listen to me. My edicts cannot even leave the palace gates." He took 2 steps forward, his voice rising higher and higher. "Is it you and the Empress Dowager?" "Your Majesty," I interrupted him, lifting my eyes to look at him. "You should return now." He froze, looking at me as if he didn't recognize me. I picked up my teacup and said indifferently, "From now on, aside from attending court, you should stay in your sleeping quarters and rest well. The Empress Dowager and I will handle the affairs outside for you." His face turned deathly pale in an instant, his lips quivering, wanting to say something but unable to speak. He rushed forward 2 steps, but was stopped by the guards behind him. His face turned deathly pale in an instant, his lips quivering, wanting to say something but unable to speak. He rushed forward 2 steps, but was stopped by the guards behind him. Those 2 guards were my men, strong and capable. Each held one of his arms, and though he struggled, he couldn't move at all. "Shen Qing Lan." He shouted my name, his voice sharp and hoarse. "You dare to place me under house arrest? I am the emperor. I am the son of heaven. I set down my teacup, stood up and walked over to him. He was being held, looking utterly pathetic, his eyes bloodshot, staring at me intensely, like a trapped beast. Your Majesty, I looked at him and said word by word. You once said, this world belongs to you, and you could do as you pleased. Now I tell you, this world is decided by my Shen family and the Empress Dowager. Stay put and behave. You will have food and drink, and I will not make things difficult for you. He opened his mouth, and tears fell. I watched him cry, feeling not a ripple of emotion in my heart. In the past, if he glanced at me even once, I would be so happy I couldn't sleep. Now that he stands before me crying like this, I actually find it somewhat laughable. Take the Emperor back. I turned and sat back by the window, without my command. He is not allowed to step a single foot out of his quarters. The guards dragged him away. He shouted my name the whole way, his voice growing fainter, until it finally disappeared at the end of the corridor. Lan Ji stood to the side, not daring to even breathe loudly. Chen Xiang brought in freshly brewed tea, her hands still shaking. I took the teacup and took a sip, the fragrance of the tea melting on my tongue. I used to think the most important thing in this life was for him to look at me. Now I know. The most important thing is my own comfort. The wind rose outside the window. The osmanthus flowers in the courtyard bloomed, their scent drifting in, sweet and delicate. I leaned back in my chair and let out a long sigh of relief. The air in this palace doesn't seem so stifling anymore. The day Zhao Yuan Xi passed away, it was a rainy day. The Imperial physicians knelt everywhere, saying it was due to pent-up emotions, a long-standing illness, beyond the reach of medicine. I stood at the entrance of his sleeping quarters, listening to the intermittent coughing inside, but did not go in. Lan Ji handed me an umbrella, asking if I wanted to go in, but I didn't take it. I stood under the eaves and listened, the rain hitting the roof tiles, pattering away, drowning out most of his coughing. I suddenly remembered, many years ago when I first entered the palace, it was also a rainy day like this. He passed by the Kunming Palace and casually broke off a branch of osmanthus to have it sent to me. I held that branch of flowers and was happy for 3 whole days. Now I finally understand. The most important thing is not to lose yourself. The palace doors opened, the head physician came out and knelt before me to say the emperor had passed. I nodded and said I understood. Wailing came from behind me as the eunuchs and palace maids knelt on the ground. I stood under the eaves, raindrops splashing onto my skirt. The new emperor is my distant nephew, and both the Shen family and the Empress Dowager have given their approval. On the day of the coronation ceremony, I changed into the Empress Dowager's robes and sat behind the beaded curtain, listening to the court officials chanting long live 3 times. Zhao Yuan Xi's spirit tablet was placed in the Imperial Ancestral Temple, and the new emperor chose the posthumous title AI, Sorrow for him. The ritual officials said it was a well-chosen title. I said nothing. After the ceremony ended, I returned to the Kunming Palace alone. Lan Ji and Chen Xiang were arranging the newly delivered flowers in the courtyard, saying the osmanthus bloomed earlier this year than in previous years. I sat by the window, smelling that sweet, delicate fragrance, and suddenly felt that life wasn't so bad after all. On the table lay the half-finished ledger, with a cup of cold tea sitting beside it. I reached out and picked up the teacup, poured it into the flower pot, and refilled it with a hot one. I used to think the position of Empress was a lock, locking me in this square world, unable to leave, and unable to live clearly. Now I realize, whether it's a lock or not depends entirely on whether you want it to be. If I am willing, this square world is my domain. If I am not, even if the entire empire were laid before me, it would be nothing more than a larger cage. Lan Ji's laughter drifted from outside the window, probably teasing Chen Xiang about something. I took a sip of tea. The tea was warm, warming me all the way down my throat. This life is still long, and I will live it slowly. The rain outside had stopped at some point, and the sun peeked out from behind the clouds, making the osmanthus flowers in the courtyard glisten. I leaned back in my chair, squinting at the light.